Good morning, everyone. My name is Debbie Mann, and I'm with Festivals and Events Ontario, and we are here on Tuesday Talks with Theo. We have joining us Simon Cusack and Matthew Broussard from Rafflebox, and they are going to talk about what's new and exciting with Rafflebox, how to take advantage of raising money with your organization by using them. And and they're a member of Theo's and a sponsor. So we're pretty excited about you being on board, Simon. Thank you.
Yeah, we're pretty excited to be here today as well. I know we did speak there a few months back with Tip Tap, which I had a great experience. And yeah, we were just hoping to get back on again and just give you some updates,
Sure.
sort of where we're at. So what we can do is we can go through a little deck we put together. I might flip back and forth between two decks just because there is some other things that I might talk about during this call. But
sure. I forgot to say one thing, Simon, if you don't
sure.
mind interrupting you for a quick sec. So feel free to chime in if you have any questions for Simon or Matthew. You can either unmute yourself and ask a question. If you don't want to do it that way, just type it into the chat box and I will make sure that they hear it. Or you can raise your hand in the reactions button at the bottom. If you click on that, there'll be a raise hand and that'll bring you to the top of the screen so that we can call on you to ask your question. That's it for me. Off you go, Simon.
Sure. I think we can hop on the next slide there. So yeah, Rafflebox, we started in about 2016. I'll just give a little background on us. Four of us were sort of based out of Alberta. Our technology is really around running online like 50/50s, prize raffles. One of the big things we'll probably talk about today a little bit is our in-venue terminals as well, that we've been seeing a lot of success with in the sports space and festivals and events. So we started in Calgary. Our head office is now pretty much here in Nova Scotia. We've been growing significantly. We've gone from about 8 of us in the last 2 years to 35, and I think we'll be around 40 by the end of the year here. So lots of growth, lots of exciting things going on. I think, as we all know, this is really the busy season. So we've been pretty hectic here the last while, but it's really exciting to help raising funds for all these groups, nonprofits and charities. So we can go to the next slide there. So our platform really is a couple things that we do today. And I do have a couple examples here that we'll talk about later on, our specific use cases. So if you're not familiar with it, we do online 50/50s. We do online prize raffles. We do combo events, so where you can run a raffle with a prize add-on or a prize with a 50/50 add-on. We do have our in-venue terminals now. We just recently launched in the US as well. So we're in approximately 20 states. We have a few raffles up and running there now, which is really exciting, but it's sort of getting the word out in the US about what a 50/50 is. It's pretty inherent in everybody's culture here in Canada that we find. So might be a little bit of a longer road, but we're getting there. So sort of the benefits to our platform, one big thing is we really have no upfront costs to get going. So, if you succeed, we succeed at the same time. A lot of this, I'm sure a fair amount of you have probably ran like manual 50/50s for your events. So the idea about moving this online to like an ERS platform or like an online platform is, the ability to save a lot of time. We can track, ticket sales. We can export those reports for reporting to the AGCO. Not too sure how many of you have dealt with the AGCO before, but we've worked with them a lot. We've got a great relationship and we try to make it so everything that you're submitting at the end of the day is what they're looking for. We do a lot of like interesting things in the platform, which I'll pull up another deck as well, just to go through some of those unique features, but things like are in support of, for example. So what we do with this, and it could be used for multiple things. So, we see the United Ways of the world to use this for corporations that want to fundraise. So they can load in a bunch of companies, and for their fall campaign, which is going on right now, they're competing against each other and raising funds for an organization. We also use in supportive for volunteers. So say you were having an event and you wanted to track like the fundraising efforts of various individuals. What we do is we create like a unique URL for those participants, and it tracks their sales. What we see is like having that sort of like fun competition is always pretty nice. And then, you can always incentivize those individuals as well with a small prize. But using that in supportive feature where there's all those unique IDs, and then you have all of those people sharing it on social media, it just really brings a lot more attention to your event, and a lot more eyes are on it, which in turn results in more like fundraising opportunities. We also do province-wide 50-50. So if you are going to run on the platform and you're running a prize or raffle event, when you're going through like the AGCO and getting your license, the good thing is like you now have access to maybe a much wider audience of what you traditionally would have had just at the event. So you might have supporters from around the province that want to participate but can't be there, but they can still, raise some funds for your cause or for a cause that you're supporting. We also have the ability to, plug in the description sort of affiliate links or groups that have maybe donated to you. So like a little bit of advertising. A lot of the new features we have now as well is you can do early bird draws up into the event. A lot of the ones that we see now, what they do is they use a combo of both. So up until say, 30 days before, 2 months before, they'll get the online raffle going. With the idea is that at the end, there's going to be still online, but in venue terminals, and then you're going to pick a winner at the end of your, I guess, festival or event. What it does is it like typically we see that it seeds the pot almost. So like when you do have your in-person gathering, the pot's already at like 10,000 or 25,000. So we tend to see that we get a lot more like buyers because there's already sort of a good amount in that pot set up. We have the ability to do multiple prize draws now. So, going up to the event or just having multiple prize draws at the event, we can do our combo deals where, you have a 50-50 with the prize add-on or a prize with a 50-50 add-on. Where we see this a lot in our space is people doing cars. So if they have they're raising funds, somebody's going to win a car, they'll add on the 50-50. And it's interesting because we typically see like 65% of people will buy an additional ticket when they get to the 50-50, which also just increases the more funds that you're raising. The whole point of the online ticket sales too is just it's all really automated. There's no physical tickets that need to be sent out. Essentially, it's just going to have all the rules and regulations that the AGCO wants to be sent at the end of the day to a person that's buying. The platform can do geolocation as well as like we can get very specific or just open it up to anybody in the province. Typically for your events, if you have people coming in, you would want to open it up to just geolocation. The idea is like as long as they're in the province, they can buy. So we had to add a couple of those features because some of these events, there's people coming from all over the world to participate in at the end of the day. Yeah, so I'll go through a couple more here. So our in-venue ticket sales, I'm gonna talk about that in a little bit more detail as we go on. But we have new terminals essentially that we use. They're called PAX A920s. From those devices, it prints out the ticket for the event. You can also take tap, debit, credit, and cash. So it gives you all of those options within one unit. Traditionally in the past in the space, there's been like multiple units that you'd have. You'd have a printer on your hip, you'd have an iPad that you're selling on, and then you might have another like RFID or like a Square device. You guys have probably seen those before. But I'll go into the in-venue stuff a little bit more. The dashboard that we have today, pretty much all the information you need is in there. These are also really good ways to like create a donor base as well. So all the information's in there. We don't keep any like credit card information or anything like that. That's all done through our third-party payment provider, which is Stripe. We use Stripe Connect. Dashboard has all the stats on who's buying, how much you sell in a day, how much has been sold online, how much has been done on a credit card, how much cash you've taken. You can issue, tickets from the dashboard. Pretty much anything our staff can do here from a support standpoint, you're able to do as well. So we can manage it for you. But at the same time, if you're comfortable and want some training, you can pretty much do this all yourself. The only check and balance we have is just ensuring that you do have a license from the Ontario government to run. If we don't have a license, you basically can't get up and running. So, and if we want, maybe Matt might be able to do a quick demo of the dashboard, but we'll see where we're at for time.
Yeah.
Lots of data analytics in there. so are you? I'm going to take that as a 50-50. So what is a 50-50? So 50-50 is where you have an event. You're selling tickets. 50% goes to like the organization and 50% goes to the winner. So I don't know if you've typically you'll see a lot of them at hockey games. People are walking around selling tickets, pick up your ticket. At the end of the second period, they announce a winner and someone walks away with a couple $1,000 or maybe even more. So we have some 50-50s that we run here in Nova Scotia and across Canada where, weekly some people are walking away with like $125,000 or more. But does that answer your question on the 50-50?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And just to give a little bit more background on it, why it's really beneficial is that there's no financial risk to the group. So like a car raffle, for example, a group will go pay that money for the car, hoping they're going to sell more than that in raffle tickets. So there is a financial risk there. With the 50-50, you're simply just giving away half the amount that you bring in. So you're never at financial risk of losing money.
Is there a different incentive for people to participate if it's a tangible thing like a car versus cash?
Yeah, it depends. Prize raffles versus 50-50, people tend to like cash more. But if it's a really, really good prize, like a really nice car, they're really successful as well. But yeah, it really depends on the prize you're giving away. But yeah, cash is usually king.
Yeah, and we've been finding that more and more. Within the platform, like we said, you can have multiple prizes. So a lot of people will do maybe like 10 different prizes, and a lot of it will be donated, right? So those are sort of done in the early bird. But traditionally, what we have been seeing is at the end of the day, people are looking for cash right now.
Yeah.
Or like a cash equivalent of what the prize is. But yeah, to Matt's point, the idea is like typically, to reduce risk, try to get as like prize donations if you can. Because at the end of the day, like even with those car ones, there is a little bit more level of risk because you're putting in the money to buy the car up front. We haven't seen any that have lost any money yet. They usually do really well. I think most of these groups are paying, say, like 40 to 50,000 for a vehicle, and all the ones we've been running are usually raising like 160,000 or more. So they're typically covering the cost for sure at the end of the day. So.
Dave has a question. He has his hand up.
Hi, yeah, I'm just wondering, when you're talking about your provincial 50-50s and the AGCO, in a lot of municipalities, there's a license, and the AGCO has to get a letter from your municipality.
Right.
How does that work across Ontario? And let's use us as an example. If we're doing our conference in Niagara, our office is in Kitchener, but we serve the province. Who would we have to get the municipal letter from to run a provincial organization or 50-50 draw?
Yeah, so we've seen it. It sort of varies everywhere, depending on the municipality. What we've typically seen is if you're going to be running an event in that area, as long as you're sending an email to the municipality, letting them know that we plan to do this there, looking for your approval, all the AGCO that we've ever seen is looking for is just like that communication has taken place via email, just so they're in the know about it. But some municipalities we have seen do get involved a little bit more. But at the end of the day, like if you are a nonprofit or a charity, you are able to go directly to the AGCO to get your licensing. I think a lot of folks it's a good thing to do, is just say, give the heads up, right? And it's mainly done just because it is ERS, like because you're using an online platform to do it. So, but it sort of does vary. Like I've seen it. There's not one specific process, I guess I can say, that is common across all the municipalities at the end of the day.
That's Ontario for you.
Yeah. So we just sort of like document it as we go here internally, and like in our knowledge bases for our support staff. So depending on where you are and where you're working, we try to keep a record of what those interactions are like and what helps sort of get things through. So in Ontario, really right now, if you've ever ran online before, or if you've already been vetted, it's about, 2 to 4 weeks to get a license if you've sort of ran them in the past. If you've never ran one before, there is a bit of a process. Getting your organization information to the AGCO. So those are things like, before you have to apply, you're going to need a board member list, bona fide members list, last year's financials, a constitution of your bylaws or policies, signatures of principals. These are sort of the things you need in place to apply the license. Once you have that done, you're basically getting granted access to the AGCO's portal. And within that portal, then you have the ability to sort of apply for the license and fill these out over time. So one thing we do recommend is if this is going to be a common thing, or you're going to use this in multiple areas, is to get that sort of set up so that you do the grunt work up front, get everything going, and then the second and third times that you're applying for the license, it's sort of easy peasy, I guess you could say, at the end of the day. So, but like I said, that process, if you haven't ran before, it can be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks currently.
So I have Pat from Sing in Toronto. She says, we do a 50-50 in Puerto Vallarta to support the orchestra. It's done at the concert. Traditionally, the winner of the 50-50 donates the winnings back to the orchestra. Is there any tradition or incentive to do this in Canada?
So we see a lot of people just do that, I guess you could say, out of the goodness of their hearts. Typically, though, if they do donate back, they can utilize that as a taxable receipt at the end of the day. If the orchestra was like a non-profit or a charity, outside of the tax option there, that's pretty much really it. So like, there's really no, like I said, unless it's just like a taxable receipt. If the orchestra or the group is able to give you a tax receipt, Mark, you might have a little more about interesting conversation on that as well, right? So. Because you're sort of in that donation space, but today that's really the only option is if that group is able to provide a taxable receipt if they donate it to it. So,
Peter, is that Pat? I hope that answers your question. Peter says, when there are multiple prizes, can contestants indicate their preferred prize?
A bit of context on that is we ran a prize earlier this year, and some of them were prizes that were suitable for a farmer, like herbicide.
Yep.
And other prizes were like bicycles. So a farmer just wants the herbicide, doesn't want to win the bicycle. Can they indicate ahead of time?
I know exactly what you're saying. So currently on the platform, like you can't assign, say, tickets to certain prizes. So say you wanted to go all in on, say you had 10 prizes, like you said, and you're like, oh, I want to put 4 tickets in over here, 6 tickets over there, and 10 over here for that prize. It currently doesn't support that right now. We are building that out because it's another really large request that we've had from home lottos. And hospital lotteries. So during the checkout process, it's like, do you want to buy tickets for this prize? Do you want to buy a ticket for the card? Do you want to buy a ticket for the 50-50? So that feature will be available in the new year, where people can buy for specific prizes that are available. And then essentially what would happen in the dashboard is you can go in and use like the random number generator. You go to pick the winner for that specific prize that was loaded, and it only would check the tickets that have been sold basically for that prize to pull a winner out. So we don't have it right now, but the team is actually building it out as we speak. So does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay. So all of the donor information is donor information or like ticket buyer information is tracked within your dashboard. You have the ability to use that for sort of future campaigns if you want to reach out. It's really just sort of like first name, last name, address, and email, phone number. Like I was saying before, we don't really keep any of the credit card information, so we don't have to meet that specific PCI compliance, but we do have SAC 2 compliance. And then and we just finished our SOC 2 compliancy as well. If that's important to a lot of you, it seems to be becoming more important in the industry, just from a security standpoint, and making sure organizations or companies in our space are keeping everything secure. And then, one of the big things that saves everybody time at the end of the day is just being able to pick your winners with a certified random number generator. And that is sort of built within the platform. So, and there's a bunch more stuff, but those are sort of the main key rafflebox tools and features. Matt, I don't know if you had anything specific you wanted to add within there, or?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that. We can have multiple people in your organization have logins to manage different parts of your raffle campaign, which some groups find very beneficial. And it just, to Simon's point, like we've built everything to save your group a ton of time. So you don't have to spend a ton of resources when you run a raffle with us. We've automated as much as we can. So you're not spending hours and hours having to run these. It pretty much runs itself. The most important thing we really need the groups to do is just lean on your donors and your supporters. So marketing it through your social channels, your email channels, word of mouth. That's really what we rely on our groups to do. But for everything else, it's just we've built it just so it's very automated and it saves your group a ton of time.
Yeah, we typically like to say we'll do the heavy lifting to get it all up and going, which really isn't a lot of work, but we have all of our teams like set up internally to sort of walk you through these processes, get your page built up, make sure you have all the necessary links and everything you need, get your personal bank account linked. And then like Matt said, it really is sort of hands off once you get going, other than like really pushing from a marketing standpoint and getting like people selling and just bringing awareness to the campaign. So
yeah, and one thing that I'll just quickly touch on is that with charitable gaming in Canada and a lot of places in the world is we don't have access to your money. So when you create your Stripe account in our dashboard, the money goes directly into your Stripe account, and then you make payouts to your nonprofit or charitable bank account. And then we invoice later. We do not touch or have access to any of your funds. So it's important for you guys to realize that too.
So we get 100% of the money and then we pay you out of that? Is that?
Yeah,
okay?
Yeah, exactly.
I had a question on that. Like when you do it like 50-50 draw, there's fees on top of that. And so is the 50-50 draw like 100% of what comes in, or is the 50-50 draw the less the fees?
Yeah. So say $1,000 comes in, 500 goes to the winner. The other 500 at the time of purchase, Stripe, our online merchant provider, will take their fee at the time of transaction. Yeah. So they take 2.9 plus 30 cents at the time of transaction. So that comes out of your remaining 500. And then that all gets pushed to your bank account, and then we charge you our fee after that you'll pay via check or however you can however your group can pay.
Yeah, it ends up around like 10% at the end of the day. So you would take home winner takes 50, organization about 40, and then fees are about 10%.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So I see another question there.
Hold on. Was it Peter again? I'm echoing, I hear. Is it echoing for you? No.
It is a little bit.
What are the minimum thresholds for success? How do you spark interest, confidence in people to want to buy a raffle ticket, especially if it's your first time?
Did you want to take that one, Matt? Or?
Yeah, really, it's all about the marketing play. So it's really leaning on your existing donor base or marketing list, and really using your socials to promote it. We have best practices for all our groups, depending on we have groups that just want to raise $1,000. We have groups that want to raise $1 million. So I mean, a lot of that really does rely on your audience and how much marketing dollars you want to put in. But we have an experienced team that can walk you through what you're trying to accomplish, and just kind of let you know what you'll need to do in terms of, like I said, marketing and marketing dollars to achieve that goal. But we help groups of any size. That's kind of what sets us apart from our competitors. Like I said, we have no upfront costs. So we can help a group that wants to raise $500 or $1,000 all the way up to, $1 million or 10 million.
Yeah. And the threshold for success is really like, it's really what you want to get out of it at the end of the day. One thing we always try to do is like, manage expectations, I guess you can say. A lot of folks will see like, really large raffles or 50/50s, or they'll look at like the Hockey Canada pots and they're like, oh, I can do that. So one thing we like to do is sort of go through, we'll help and like look at your audience. We'll look at, maybe, okay, based on how many Facebook followers, or if you have a pre-existing like user list of buyers, to sort of help estimate like what's a good number that we think you can achieve. Just because we've ran like so many of these now, and because they were all different sizes, we have a sort of a really good understanding of what you can do, especially like we can compare similar events to ones that have ran in the past to give like a good idea of sort of where you're going to land. So
I have a question. You in support of, because we're working towards having a raffle with you for our conference.
Yeah.
One of the things that was suggested was that if you get a charity or something involved, or you're going to be in support of a charity, can we use their database, get them to send out?
Yeah, so it all depends on how you want to partner. I would say like, and I may be wrong, but a lot of groups potentially here, like you're going to have to maybe partner with a nonprofit or a charity to actually be able to go get the license. But I may be wrong. So the idea is like really that's sort of between like you and the nonprofit or charity to figure out. We do somewhere, we have like 6 or 7 charities raising funds, or you got 5 different United Ways raising funds at the same time and using the in support of. Another thing is like anybody who's, as long as you have the license and we're running the event in that community, well, maybe, there's various participants that want to raise funds for the event, or even like individuals that are here. We could all be essentially in support of fundraising for the event, just, to raise funds at the end of the day for FEO. So I can be selling tickets, for the event. So I am in Nova Scotia, but like if everybody's sort of in Ontario or whatever, we can sell tickets. So.
We run a lot of animal shelters where all their volunteers are in support of, and then all their volunteers shared on their social feeds, on their email addresses. And then they obviously take pride in it because they're volunteering for something that's near and dear to their heart. So that, just ends up taking the fundraiser to the next level.
Okay, great. Dave has a question.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, a lot of the things, and when you talk about Hockey Canada, different provinces are restricted from buying tickets. Like if we were doing it, is our limits Ontario or?
Yeah. So in Canada and in some of the states down south, it's in Canada, it's all restricted by the provincial boundaries. You're not allowed to sell a raffle ticket outside of wherever it's been licensed. So if you get a raffle license in Ontario, the ticket has to be purchased in Ontario. Yeah,
there's something called sweepstakes, which is sort of at like the federal level where anybody can buy across Canada for the prize. You have to have like a skill testing question. Unfortunately, like when we go through the process of registering in the provinces, like the province can be like, look, if you run a sweepstakes, don't expect to run anything else in the province. So we've stayed away from from sweepstakes. In the U.S., it's a whole different story. There's lots of groups in the U.S. that'll run like North American wide sweepstakes raffles, but like Saskatchewan and Ontario specifically have stated that, you know, if you do run a sweepstakes, because at the end of the day, it's not really like managed and there's no governance of it. So that's where sort of the individual provincial bodies like get a little bit upset about it. I can understand sort of where they're coming from. So so we don't run those today, but it is within the province. But if anybody was coming from out of province or globally traveling, you use the geofence and they'll be able to buy tickets regardless of where they're from, but they got to be in the province.
Thanks.
We can go on to the next slide there, I think. So yeah, this is a new product we launched in March. We have about 120 customers now across Canada utilizing this, utilizing the in-venue ticket sales platforms. So these are PAX A920s. Essentially, like I said before, you can tap, credit card, debit. It's all integrated into our online platform. So, you know, prints out your tickets. You can have, selling is super easy with these, like I said, because traditionally in the past you had multiple sort of devices on you. Takes about 30 seconds to do a purchase. You can accept cash payments on that as well, and then you just cash out at the end of the day. All the ticket numbers are printed on the spot, and basically all the rules and regulations and everything that are needed by the AGCO. These connect to you know, Wi-Fi and cellular data. We have a new feature coming out for like offline. If you're in an area that doesn't have the greatest signal, it's like load and go, where you load a bunch of tickets, you can go out and sell them, and then as soon as you get back to connectivity, you'll load it back in. These we sell these as well as we lease these. So, you know, for sort of festivals and events, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to buy them. So, you know, we typically just lease them out. For us to get you from start to finish where you have these devices at your event, as long as you fill out all the paperwork, it's about 2 weeks from initial conversation with us. So yeah, these have been going out a lot. I guess I can say it's really picked up in the sports space. We ran a lot of really cool live events this year. I'll talk about some of those, but we're excited to, with hopefully everything coming back. I think last time when we were talking, it was like, what's it going to be like after COVID? But we are seeing like people getting together. So the need for these has been really picked up, especially we find during like the summer months, and then in the winter time, it sort of goes to hockey for now. But these are the new in-venue terminal product that we have, which I think hand in hand with the online and any live event you're running, it's a great all-in-one solution at the end of the day.
So I have a couple of more questions. On the device, what's the cost of the device to use for a week?
So for all we do is we charge a $35 fee for the month, and then we don't have any of those, like we don't have upfront fees with these either. So we do the typical transaction fee and the 7% of total ticket sales.
And is there, so depending on the number of people at your event, is there like a recommended number of units to have?
Yeah, well, we typically will work with you to figure out those numbers.
Okay.
There's also spares, like you'll have a spare too, just based on like, depending how long the event goes, but typically we'll work through getting a good understanding of what the expectations are for the event, and then we base it off of that. So like, for example, we had one this summer, St. Tite, that we're going to talk about in Quebec. They ran for 2 weeks. They utilized about 40 devices. But like I said, it's usually anywhere between, 5 and 10 typically are the sweet spot. So.
Okay. And another question is there a certain income level of buyer that buys raffle tickets like as there is for lotteries?
That's a good question.
it's a good question. We haven't really, I guess the data's there for us to sort of look at it, but we're not really tracking enough, I think, information today to really give that a good answer. Like we have millions and millions of ticket buyers today for across Canada here, but yeah, it's hard. It's a good question. So
yeah. I mean, there's usually we set up different price points. Usually within in-venue cash, there is a $5 option. So like 1 for $5, which the majority of people definitely can afford to get into. It's about as expensive as buying your Lotto 649 or Lotto Max. But yeah, we'd have to really dig into that to
yeah, we see like.
Go ahead.
We just see sort of like online, people will buy like 100 for 100 packages. So in like online and in venue, we see like different types of buyers, I guess you could say at the end of the
And
day.
is the option in the box that they can buy 100 for 100, or is it?
Yeah. So on that screen, essentially it's just like a touchpad. So it comes up, it'll list out the ticket packages, and then the next screen, it's like, is it cash, credit card, debit? So you just click that button, it loads it up, you tap it, and then you're sort of good to go. So,
and I think like the rule of thumb, what we see is it's usually you can kind of estimate your pot on how many people are there, and it's usually about $3 to $4 a head. So if you had 5,000 people there, you can expect that you'll probably sell close to $15,000 for your pot.
Okay. Yeah, and then to your question, Shannon, yeah, so there is typically a setup fee for the device depending on how many there are. I think the lowest has been $150 setup fee to $3,000 depending on how many they are. But it's typically a pretty reasonable setup fee at the end of the day. So,
Dave has a question again.
Yeah, sorry, I'm going back to your geofencing thing. So just using this hypothetical. So I live in Vancouver. I can't buy a 50-50 ticket for Festivals and Events Ontario 50-50 lottery.
Yep.
But if I was visiting family in Ontario,
Yep.
would I now be geocached in that fenced area? I could buy the tickets and I'd be eligible to win then?
100%. Yeah.
Be the same as going to like an NHL, like myself
Right.
going to the NHL game and watching the Canucks play, and I won there, right? So I think they have the same terminals inside the Canucks. So
Did they have
I
to
would
be
win.
here to get the prize?
No, you need to be in the province at the time of the purchase.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
We can hop on the next slide there. So these were just a couple of examples that we just ran recently. So we did the Ottawa Blues Fest there. They did a combo raffle with online and in-venue ticket sales. So the campaign length was about 4 months. So like I said, what they did is they started the online sales 4 months in advance, coming up to the event. At the end of the day, they raised about $85,000. So coming up to the event, they had about 10,000 online, and then at the event they raised about 75,000. So they were really excited about these numbers. We were excited too. That's a pretty good opportunity there.
And you can't downplay. Yeah, you can't downplay when someone walks in the event and the pot's already at $10,000. When you hit those certain thresholds, people just get FOMO, or they feel like they're going to miss out. So it's 10,000, 25, 50, and then it kind of takes a life of its own. So it's really, really important to build that up as much as possible before the event. Then your end number will always be bigger.
I have a question too. So if you do a 50-50 plus prizes, and people is it a separate purchase for the prizes than it is for the raffle, the 50-50?
Yeah. So through the checkout process, you'll have an option to buy tickets for both. You can buy tickets for either one, but then it's all on one transaction. So you just get one email. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
we can hop on the next one there. That was, like I said, that was an online and in-venue ticket sale. So the Edmonton Folk Fest was another one. They started their campaign about 2 months coming up to the event. So they raised around 160,000. So they were really successful. One of the big things that we always say too is like the more volunteers you have, like really pushing the sales, it does really help. So they had a lot of individuals running around with like QR codes up on like on a handheld. So you can like scan that QR code. It'll take you directly to the raffle page, online page, and then they can purchase that way. They did about 25,000 before the event started. And then at the event, they raised around, I think, of like 135,000 during the event. So that was pretty fantastic. You know, we've done a couple of these folk fests. We did the Calgary Folk Fest and a few others. Yeah, that was a big pot, big pot they raised. So,
yeah.
And then our last one that I had, if you want to go to the next slide there. So we did Festival Western de St. Tite. So this is a really, really big event. I think it was even bigger this year, just everybody coming back from COVID. So they used the in-venue terminals. They didn't do anything online, and they only collected cash at this event. So it was a rodeo that took place over about 14 days. So they didn't do anything up until the event. They just ran with the in-venue terminals for the 2 weeks, and they raised around $686,000 throughout those 2 weeks. Their setup was like a very well-oiled machine, and in terms of how to handle cash. And that's another thing too, is we have a lot of good best practices to help, like the ticketing team that's selling. Like, you know, when do you come back to like a main area and hand over your cash and check out? How do you keep track of who has what? So, so these were just a few of the ones that sort of did these combos or just in venues. So.
Yeah, one more thing I'll add is that we also have the ability, you'll see there on the right picture, that's red screen, where we can link and have that live pot total in real time. Which is beneficial. So people are walking around, seeing the jackpot grow. It's creating excitement. So we call them tickers that we can obviously help set up at all the festivals as well. And
then, like for the online stuff, you can embed. So say you have like custom sites, you can embed the pots into those. And there's a bunch of other like sort of smaller features, but that is a big one because it does generate a lot of people to come over and buy tickets, as well as your individuals you would typically have yelling, get your 50-50 tickets. So.
Dave, do you have another question? Your hand's still up.
Nope, just not used to using the phone.
Okay.
There, it's down there.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the end, like I guess like at the end of the day, just to sort of close out on our end, it's really simple to get this going. If like I think the most daunting part typically is getting the licenses and just working through that process. But once you get through that, you're sort of good to go for all of like your future events. So, and we have like step-by-step instructions basically on how like you need to fill out the online portal to get through that licensing part. And then, you know, we have our sales team, we have our support team, we have a loyalty team. They're all here to answer sort of any questions and walk you through sort of anything you need to do to get up and running. At the end of the day, it's the whole point is to take a lot of that work off you guys. So like really you can just push it and sell it, do your marketing, and then the platform just sort of manages it itself. And we tried to make it as simple as possible at the end of the day for you to raise these funds with like, you know, no upfront costs or no barrier of entry, I guess you could say. So by getting rid of that barrier of entry where there's like some of our competitors, you know, it's 15,000 to just even to run one, right? You're signing a multi-year contract.
Pat from Sing, oh, sorry, so I'm going to cut you off there. Pat from Sing has a question. She's just popped up on the screen. You're muted, Pat, if you want to speak. Do you see any difficulty in obtaining a license? We're a registered charity with audited financials, bylaws, and board list, etc.
You should be fine. And if you want a hand, I can have one of our sales guys who's very well versed in Ontario reach out and sort of explain the process and walk you through it, send you the links that you need to go to, and he'll even just guide you what you need to put in where we know that basically you'll get approved, because we've seen it come back and forth so many times with groups where they've asked for something else, so they didn't do that. So if you can populate everything right the first time, it'll take about 6 weeks for it to go through. But
we also run a silent auction. I wonder whether we could run it in conjunction with the silent auction.
Yeah, you could. So we don't run silent auctions today, but and I don't know if you need. I don't think you need a license for a silent auction,
No.
but we see a lot of groups, they do those together. They'll do a silent auction, they'll do a 50-50, they'll do a prize raffle, they'll do a bunch of different stuff. So
And one other question. So is there an option to, when you buy the 50-50 ticket, is there an option to increase the amount and make the rest of it a donation?
Sorry,
Right.
go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, that's something that we're working on, is having a donation option a part of the transaction. So for example, you buy $20 of raffle tickets, then instead of do you want a ticket for a car? It's going to be a donation. So that is something that we are working on. Yes.
Thank you.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't done the full leap into the donation space yet. We're, like I said, we've been looking at it because we've had some requests for it, but our goal is really to concentrate on the 50-50, the prize raffle technology, to make sure we have one solution that we're very, very good at the end of the day. So
Simon has a question. Simon, have you found that having one draw over a multi-day event is more successful than having daily draws or vice versa?
That's a good question.
Yeah, some groups, what they do is they'll have a single day event. So if it's 4 days, they'll have a winner every day, and then on the add-on, you'll be able to buy a ticket that will roll to the last day. So then what happens is you'll have kind of your mega jackpot rolling over the 4 days, and then you'll still have your single 50-50 winners. If that makes sense.
Wonderful.
We find I guess to that too, it's like the bigger the pot, the more people buy at the end of the day. So, typically it depends maybe on the size of your event as well, Shannon, how many people you expect to be there. But usually having that pot grow, that's when people are going to get the FOMO and want to buy tickets. Sometimes if you do that daily draw, the next day you're starting at zero again. So you're going to have probably less people buying in on the second or third day. So I think specifically, I know you've been talking to Chris for the Winnipeg Folk Fest. So I would probably recommend doing the single one over the multi days, doing the build up for a month or two before online. And then I think you'd have really good success with the online and in-venue terminals there. So
Lots to think about. I'm excited. I have to say I'm excited about doing it for a conference and see where it takes us. And just Pat, just so you know, there's a gentleman on here called Mark Landre, and he's with Rafflebox, and he's one of the ones who's helping me. And so it's really great. He's made it a very easy process.
that's who would be contacting you for Sing Toronto is Mark. And if he's on here, he is the Ontario guru for this stuff. So,
Hey, Deb, can I jump in?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, have you guys had experiences like if you put, for us, it'd be a gamble, I know, but if you put like $1,000 or $2,000 Promatic campaign against this, have you had success rates with stuff like that? And I know as if you start to build momentum, you can put a bit more into it as you see funds coming in.
So we like seeding the pot essentially. Yeah. So we have a feature where you can sort of seed the pot. It does sort
Well,
of
not necessarily seeding the
Okay.
pot. I'm saying buying a paid social media campaign against it.
Oh, yes. So we do that all the time, and we do it in-house as well. So if it's something that you're looking to do, typically what we'll do is, as long as you're paying for the cost of it, like we don't really charge anything for the marketing side today. We know that at the end of the day, if we can get like an ad up that helps drive sales, we're gonna benefit as well as a company. So yeah, we do that a lot. So a lot of customers run Facebook ads. Sometimes they start with like $250 or 500, and then if it grows and it's successful, they throw more money at it. And then what our marketing team does is they'll drive through specifically for the the location you're running the event. Look at like a few things like who is your target audience. Like when we do sports, a lot of the times for kids sports, it's like 35 to 45-year-old individuals that we specifically target for that. So we do that in-house, and that is something we can do for you. And it does, we'll show you the ROI on it, because what we do is we use tagging or CIDs, and what it does is it tracks basically the money you spend all the way for the buyer when they click the link to what they're purchasing for a ticket at the end of the day. So we can come back and say, you spent $500, it generated $7,000 in sales. Is this something you want to continue doing? So.
Wonderful. Pete, did that answer your question, Dave? Is he gone?
Yeah.
There he is. Okay.
That answered. Thank you.
Thanks. Peter asked, what about cheaper priced early bird ticks at the outset?
I don't think we've ever really done that. Matt?
No, we haven't done cheaper tickets. No, but we do early bird deadlines that, it just helps get that pot up to a higher number quicker throughout the campaign, which does have a lot of benefit.
So
what's the incentive? What's the incentive to having for someone to buy if they don't buy before the deadline?
Yeah. So for example, you could have, I'll just throw out a date. So say your draw is December 31st. December 1st, you could have your first early bird deadline. That means if you bought tickets before December 1st, you're also put in a draw to win $500 or a set amount that's a little bit smaller. So then what happens is people want to be in that draw and the main draw. So they buy their tickets early, which means then that 50-50 jackpot grows a lot quicker.
It's hard to adjust ticket. It's hard to adjust ticket prices as you sort of go through, just like rules and regulations.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Just if I can pop on here for 1 second and say, like, there's the majority of provinces won't allow you to change anything once your lottery is approved or your raffle is approved.
Yeah, and then there's the other thing is just like randomization, I guess, is one of the big things. But to Mark's point, once you set your ticket prices, that's pretty much it. It's hard to go back. There is some exceptions where in provinces where maybe you sold out of a certain package and then you can go back, like, because it just goes by a total amount of tickets, for example. But we recommend against it. It just you'll get the AGCO on you, which you don't necessarily want at the end of the day. So,
how do you determine your pricing?
I guess we've just sort of have like standard packages that we've always sort of used, and when looking at the data, we see that they sort of work the best. We typically do like 4 different price points, like a series, like series A, B, C, and D. Mark, you're there again. You're doing this a lot, so you can probably speak to like the ticket packages we typically recommend. So.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the questions that I always ask is, do you have an understanding of what your socioeconomic diversity is in your kind of who you're marketing to? There are some groups that value a deal. There's groups that are like, no, we want the tickets to be fair, semi-fair throughout kind of do you want a $5 ticket price point and a 50-cent ticket price point? Or are you looking at kind of whatever suits your need? And then on top of that, I mean, you have what if you're doing a prize raffle, if you're raffling off a car versus a wine basket or something, like the price points on that would look completely different, kind of just depending on what you're doing. And then it's a conversation that is always open for discussion as well. And we claim to kind of know the best practices, but if there's suggestions that you have as well and kind of that you feel would work better, we're open to that.
Yeah, the biggest thing we sort of stay away from is you know, it's usually like $10 is what you want for the base ticket. Anytime you start getting lower than that, just from a fee standpoint, like it just, like some people be like, oh, we want to do $2 tickets or a $1 ticket. And I'm like, well, you know, if you do that, you're only making like 30 cents. So, you know, it's really looking at sort of like fees and the payment processor as well. But we typically have like that lowest ticket is about, you know, $10. So, and then they go up. Like I said, the higher you go up, you know, you do like the 100 for 100, right? More tickets for a higher price at the end of the day is typically where we see a lot of buyers. But to Mark's point, it depends on all those factors and what type of raffle it is as well. So
I just have one other question. Does the person using or the company using your raffle, is there any insurance requirements needed or?
So we are insured.
Okay.
We have all the things insured for like, you know, getting hacked or anything like that as a company. So I think we're insured up to like 10 million right now. On your end, really, like there's not really any way anybody can really steal anything. Like
Okay.
we don't have access to your money.
So from a liability perspective, though, we don't need any insurance. You're the one who need to be insured.
I've never.
No,
It's never came up.
we're
No.
insured, and then Stripe, who handles all the credit card information, they're also insured.
Yeah.
Okay. And the money, so let me ask you this then, because of that, if it's a 50-50 draw and the winner of the 50-50, do you get that to them specifically or do we give that to them?
You
Yeah.
give that to them. Yeah. We don't
Come to us and then we hand it
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Okay.
Legally we're not allowed to touch anything.
Okay.
So with inside the dashboard, it's all integrated. It's all in one solution. You would just go to like, all right, say you were running a monthly event and maybe you want to deposit the funds every week or whatever. So you can
Right.
just go in the dashboard, deposit funds. It goes straight to your bank account. You're going to issue a check or so, a check basically, or however you want to distribute those
Right.
funds at the end to the winner.
Right.
So.
And you notify them though that they won, right?
No.
Oh, we notify them.
Yeah, it's all like
It's all on us.
It's all on you. So you would go in, you would pick the winner. It's going to pull up their information: first name, last name, phone number, email address. You reach out, basically let them know sort of they won. So the reason we don't notify anybody is like sometimes like winners don't want to be known.
Okay.
So there's features too in the dashboard. Like when you pick a winner, we can have it so it shows the winner on the website after. You can have it so it doesn't. There's all these little things like you can turn on and off, but typically most people are they're not really hiding when they win.
And it just depends on what you have in your raffle rules.
Yeah.
So whatever is defined there is what you're allowed to do, whether show or not show the winner.
And who defines the raffle rules? Is that the AGCO?
You do in accordance to the AGCO. So
Okay.
our support staff knows what needs to be there and what else you can add. Yeah.
Okay.
We have like templates for everything.
Okay.
At the end of the day. Ken templates. So
Okay.
just like I said, we've ran so many of them. We sort of know what needs to be in there for everything to move forward at the end of the day. So
Wonderful. I have no more questions. Everybody, any other questions? Okay, just a reminder, this is been recorded and looking forward to seeing you next week. It's gone from me. I think it's Dog Lovers Days, Jay, who's going to be here next week talking about how to add a new element to your event. And thank you so much, Simon. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you, Mark, for joining us and giving us all this information, and looking forward to working with you.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
thanks so much for having us.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.